Your old pal Thaddeus is retiring. You can have my old life. It doesn't fit me anymore.
If you love the ocean and fantasies and sea life and everything, then this is the game for you. So for this game, we are going to showcase a game named Flamingo. And with me, I have Melissa from 2090 Creative. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
So excited to be here.
Yes, good to have you. So can you maybe start by introducing yourself a bit and also about your team? Yes.
Yep, so I'm Melissa. I am the artist at 2090 Creative, and 2090 Creative is a company that I founded alongside my brother Dennis. So he does all of the programming, and we've been working on our game Dead Flamingo for 2 years now. We were able to bring on a sound designer and musician, as well as a narrative designer and concept artist. And so a little bit about the game is you're a fisherman who is driven by very hopeful ideals in a world that has very dark and creepy enemies. And your goal is to sail the seas, see the darkness and also the beauty in it, and uncover the world's secrets.
Okay, so before we dive right into the game, I was actually quite curious about the name of the game. So
Yes.
Dead Flamingo, why did you choose this name?
Yes, so our game has the themes of the 7 deadly sins. And with the imagery of the 7 deadly sins, we thought that a flamingo is quite flamboyant and quite beautiful, but also it's kind of like showing off, right?
Showing off, yes.
And so the ultimate boss in our game is the sin Pride, and we thought a flamingo suits this boss very well. And because our enemies are meant to be quite dark and quite scary,
Yeah.
it's a dead flamingo.
Okay, so it's like a combination of the elements that you want to involve in this game.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So what's the concept behind this game? Like, why do you choose to develop it in the ocean area and at the same time to bringing like somehow of like a Lovecraftian kind of creatures inside? Yeah, what's the idea behind that?
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned Lovecraftian, because that is definitely like one of the style inspirations for us. We are fans of the series Berserk and the very dark elements of that, and if you think about the games like Dark Souls as well.
Okay.
But we also love movies like Ponyo, where it's very bright and beautiful.
Yeah.
So we thought, what if these two worlds could come together?
Yes.
You're on an open, beautiful ocean, and like at times it's quite like airy. You feel like the world is so like grand, so majestic, and so much to explore. But then when you fight enemies, save for this one on screen, but generally they are quite scary, quite Lovecraftian. They're tied to the water, right, with the H.P. Lovecraft vibe. Yep, and we want to, which it will show later on in the demo, but we want to show you a world where, related to the water, the tides rise and fall a lot, and you can keep exploring this same world, and there will be a lot of like dark elements, and it kind of entices the player to figure out what happened to this world, why is it so dark, and also to bring back the beauty.
Yeah. So why don't we just get started right now and also let our audiences to see the amazing world that you built?
Yeah, sure. So this is the demo that we do have available today, and so you're kind of started in this little shore area, and you can see our main enemy for now. His name is Fuzzling.
Puzzling?
Fuzzling, yeah.
Puzzling. Okay.
Bit of a cute name. Puzzle, yeah. And so you're sailing. The game does take place mainly on your boat. However, there are land elements, as you can see, where you can kind of sail through the land.
Oh, yeah. And Like the tide you just mentioned, it really like mimicked how it is in the real life.
Yeah. So
the flows.
my brother Dennis is like studied the water quite intensively, and so he really wanted this feeling of being in the water to be free. So we see a treasure chest here, and we can't quite do much to interact with it. But if we kind of sail around a little bit,
Okay.
we'll see that there is something down there beneath the water, and so
Yeah. So can we go get it?
you can submerge in Dead Flamingo. So I'm going to do that now. And so
Wow.
let's make our way to that chest and let's see.
I really like the lights, how the light is reflected like,
Yeah.
down by the water.
And we wanted to make sure that when you're underwater, it doesn't feel dark and dreary. It
Yeah, it's
feels
still bright.
open.
Yeah.
So a lot of that Ponyo inspiration coming through. And so when I opened that chest, I did get a bow.
Okay.
And that will allow me to. Well, first of all, let's get this guy. Let's punch him out of the way first, because he's quite annoying. Although he's big and quite a scary spider, he's not that threatening. So let's get him out of the way.
Okay. Actually, he's quite cute, I must say.
Yeah, I
like
think with the name Puzzling.
Puzzling, that's right. Like not the typical Lovecraftian like creatures I expect, but will this be an exception?
This is an exception for
Okay.
sure. So I will definitely be pleased to show you some Lovecraftian style enemies
I
shortly.
would love to see that.
So in this chest, we've received a sword.
Okay.
And so let's try this out on Puzzling.
So you collect different kinds of weapons. You can switch them whenever you want.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can. Not quite as robust as you can probably imagine in like the Breath of the Wild game, but yeah, you can definitely in the game we hope to explore different weapon
Yeah,
options.
and I just noticed how you flip your boat.
Yes.
Yeah, to make it into different modes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you're fighting, you kind of want to be closer and more slower.
Speedy?
You want to get like close to the enemy,
Well,
right?
Yeah.
So you can flip there, but then when you're sailing around, you want to be fast, right?
Ah.
So I am going towards, you can see in the distance something red and some
Yeah.
kind of structure. So I'm going to go towards that.
Okay.
And yeah, when you're sailing, you can just sail regularly, quite slow. And there's also the option to boost.
Just like explore your environment.
Yeah. And then as I mentioned before, you can submerge.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So we noticed that with a lot of the games that have sailing or are sailing themed, or
Yeah.
even if they have a sailing level, generally the sailing is quite slow and it like changes the pacing of games. But we wanted to make sure that with Dead Flamingo, sailing feels like fast and agile.
Okay.
So that's why we want to give the player like anything that they can imagine they can do on water. It should be
It's like you really ride on the water.
right. Yeah. So you'll see that we've got kind of like a traditional boss health bar appearing.
Okay.
And if you look on the horizon, you can kind of make out a creature of some sort.
Yes.
So let's go to him and let's see. Okay.
Let's go see it. Oh wow. So it's like a shape like a crab, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
So this boss is supposed to represent the Sin Wrath, but for now he's just existing. But we will tie him to the storyline.
Oh my god.
So let's try.
That's what I'm talking about, like Lovecraftian horror, right?
Yeah, that's definitely. So I was definitely studying a lot of like Lovecraft, and then
Oh my god.
those artists who also got inspiration from Lovecraft, I was studying them when I made the design of this boss.
Yeah. I really love the strong contrast between the monsters and the environment.
I'm glad you mentioned, because that is like really a core theme that we have. Is to have the strong contrast.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Puzzling, ever persistent.
He really loves you.
He's like a pet, you know?
Like a pet.
Yeah, or a pest, even. So there's many modes with this boss.
Okay.
Right now, he's like quite low to the water.
Yeah.
So
the creatures, do they also attack each other?
that friendly fire so far is not implemented, but that's definitely something we want to do.
Yeah.
We want to have like fast-paced combat, and we want the scene to be quite chaotic. So that's something that we are definitely going to implement. Right now he's like skirting the surface of the water, so I
Yeah.
can't quite get to him. Let's get rid of puzzling for now.
So will the combat also be taking place down water?
Yes.
Okay.
So some bosses will be specifically underwater bosses, and I can't show it quite yet, but I will show it shortly, the changing of the water levels.
Yeah.
There will be certain conditions that suit certain bosses better.
Okay.
So some bosses should be fought when the water is more shallow and calm, and sometimes the water can go like really crazy
Okay.
with like a lot of waves, which I will again be able to showcase after I get rid of this boss.
Okay.
So let's clear him. Let's
So
clear him.
if
real
you
quick.
don't get rid of him, will he just like keep following you, or like as long as you leave this area?
If I
then
leave
you
this
don't
area,
stay?
he'll leave
You'll
me
be-
alone.
Okay.
Yeah. But as per this demo, he does have an item that I am hoping I can achieve from him.
Ah,
Yeah,
that's
so
why.
I just want to monitor the time and make sure. If not, then we can skip right through him. Again, he's hiding
So
underneath.
each time you beat a boss, there's some object that you will get.
Yes, and each boss will be like tied to like a main storyline point. And so with the 7 deadly sins, we are hoping at having 7 bosses.
7 bosses.
And if you think about the game Shadow of the Colossus, where it's a game that's kind of structured by bosses, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, we're following that model.
Okay.
We want to put like a lot of effort into making our boss fights and
Yeah.
our boss designs
Yeah.
quite unique, and with like different challenges and different battle styles for each boss.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to perhaps switch him over soon. He does have many modes, and so right now he's.
Oh wow.
It's a bit hard too because when you have a boss that doesn't follow a like kind of traditional, like he's a crab, right?
Yeah.
But the animations become quite like specific to him, and so our animator he was really challenged this time around to try and think how can this boss move, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And how
yeah.
can it be creepy?
Yeah. But he really did a great job. Like, there's no way you know where he's coming from, but
Yeah.
at the same time, there are some hints you need to
Right.
pay attention to.
You can like kind of anticipate what he'll do, but this puzzling is. So I'm actually personally not like the biggest combat type of gamer. So when we were like playtesting and developing this boss, it took like a lot of practice for me personally. But we wanted to make it so that both combat and just generally like interacting with the world is available for players who are like me, who are like
Yeah. That's also a very important part of that.
right. So like open to both competitive but also more casual type of gamers.
Yeah, also accessible for like not that like gamers that who are not that like a proficient at combat styles.
Right.
But at the same time, you can enjoy the environment, the art settings, while exploring the whole world of this.
Exactly, because you're on the ocean and it's like this really like amazing experience to be
Yeah.
sailing, and so we
Wow,
wanted
it's really amazing. Like from down there in the water, how you see the world, and
the camera switch over.
yeah.
Now that he's quite injured, he's trying to evade me and stay up high there, but we can still get him.
You almost get it.
Yeah, we'll get him in a moment. It's also tricky because I have to avoid the bombs and the waves have gotten a bit
Yeah,
choppier.
that's right. And the waves is getting
Yeah.
so it changes as you fight.
Yep. Right now it is controlled, like we have set the conditions for which it will change, but the world is dynamic, and so as like outside of this demo, it can be like dynamically changing over time. And we do also have a dynamic like day and night cycle as well as weather system. Just for the demo, we didn't put this in because we want to like kind of control the experience.
Okay.
So he did. I
So
was
you actually mentioned that the 7 days, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So every 7 days, the world like comes to an end.
Yes.
Okay. So the main goal of the fisherman is to somehow find the secret behind it.
Find the secret as to why it's being caused. Like, what is the evil entity that is causing the world to reset? And it complements the idea of the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
So we're playing with this idea that each day can be represented by a sin, and then how can like perhaps the conditions of one day, maybe earlier in the week, that it's like much calmer. But then as the end of the world is kind of approaching on the 7th day, it's like crazier conditions.
And is the design of the bosses also has something to do with the 7 scenes?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Oh.
As well as the storylines that will accompany each one. So I'm going to approach the structure now. And what we received from the boss is something called the whale whistle.
Whale whistle.
Whale whistle, yeah. And so if I press up or down on my D-pad, I'll be able to use the whale whistle.
And can you summon the whale?
Well, I can, maybe I can show you this. So I'm going to press down on my D-pad. And let's see what will happen.
Oh. Oh my god. I love that.
Me too.
Wow. Like my heart was just like bumping with the bass sound. Really. Like.
So we can see that the water has also gotten.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets some changes.
So I can explain a little bit about what exactly is happening with that whale whistle. Now, we saw the whale was quite massive, right?
Yeah.
And so when the whale entered the water, he was able to disperse the water a little bit.
Yeah, that's right.
So let me show you again. I will call the whale whistle.
Okay.
So there are enemies on the outskirts of this kind of city, as we can see.
Yes.
But let's approach the gates and then let's see what this whale whistle can do for us. I'm just gonna enter through the main entrance. And I say we should approach this so that the effect becomes more apparent.
Yes.
But I'm going to call the whale once more.
Okay.
By pressing up on my D-pad.
Okay.
And as you can see, the whale has now left the water.
Yeah.
And as he leaves, the water level starts to rise.
Yes.
Because he's now like not there.
Yeah.
And so with the rising water levels, it kind of presents like a different way to interact with the world.
Okay.
So previously I wasn't able to reach the tops of these buildings, let's say, right?
Yeah.
But now we can interact with the tops of the buildings and perhaps there will be hidden treasures there, right?
So that is like a mechanic you activate so you can get access to more things to be interacted with it.
Exactly, yeah. And so there are quite a few levels with the whale whistle. For now, we've controlled the levels to be fixed states.
Okay.
But there will be the availability to control it to like any state that you desire.
Okay.
And so we can look down and we can see that there's kind of a lot for us to explore here.
Yeah, it is like a world down there, like a town.
So
oh wow!
Let's take a look at what's happening here in this city.
It's just like so beautifully built.
Thank you. I've been developing like many like assets to do, and then I was like populating
because
this
this
city.
is all by you, right? The art part, right?
Yeah. So when you say it, I'm like, yay! Yay! I'm glad you think so. So this is one way we can interact with this level is through this underwater area, and then I'm gonna call the whale whistle once more, and let's see what this city looks like once the water is like really low. We can go up too. And so generally the enemies tend to not enter into the inner city much. And we've done that because we do like to have quite large enemies.
Yeah.
And so the small ones are able to filter in through the main gates and enter this area. But as for now, we don't want the big guys coming in and like messing around. They don't fit. And so yeah, this is the main area, and as you can see, it's still a work in progress. But you can see that when
figures,
and it's like, what's going on here? We kind of want you to wonder like what's happening and what is this substance here, and like what happened here? You know, like we kind of want to like have the player ask that question.
Yeah.
And so we also do have like little interactable puzzles in this area. So if you think like about maybe the Koroks in Breath of the Wild, we have something present there as well, where we have little creatures that are scattered throughout the world that you can go and collect, and maybe they will have like an incentive for you to collect, like some kind of upgrade. As well as like little puzzles for you to interact with. So we can think, what is this? And then, okay, we collected that. Now, where is the next one? And I'm kind of looking, I'm kind of searching, and I can see that it's up there.
So you actually need to like observe everywhere around you.
Exactly, yeah. And so you can't reach there from this height, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's obviously it's a clue or cue for you to raise the level of the water and to
get up there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the reason we especially chose whales is because we have a partnership with the Whale and Dolphin Conservation. They're the biggest organization in the world for the conservation of whales and dolphins.
Yeah.
And they do collaborate with a lot of games that are based that have a water theme. And so yeah, we wanted to definitely.
That is very meaningful.
Yeah, and we're like really big believers in that. Like personally, I think that games is a medium for entertainment. Yes,
definitely is.
But it can also like do more than just entertain, right?
Yes.
So it was exciting when they approached us, and we have that opportunity with them. I can see that there's an enemy there, but I will show you this one. If this enemy doesn't get to
it's
me,
like an eel.
Yeah, it's like an eel. Okay, well he's attacking me, but
you found something.
Yeah.
Haha.
Yeah. I have to change his orientation, but it's called a haha.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be like funny little creatures that are just like haha, like oh you found me. And so okay, I believe there was an eel here that was trying to attack us. I'm going to avoid him because I don't want to.
It's like what you just mentioned about how games can not only just carry entertainment elements. Like I can definitely see in this game, like you try to carry more meanings for. Like for example, biodiversities and sustainabilities that you want to, like a world after devastation, or if a world corrupts in 7 days, then what are you going to do? Like explore more about the world. Like some meanings are carried inside. I really love that.
Yeah, so I like to play games that are focus a lot on the gameplay, but also like I believe that games like that can carry a lot of meaning, and so we're definitely not a story-driven game. But story elements are important to us as developers, and so personally, when I played games like Journey, or when I played games like even more recently, I replayed Breath of the Wild, so I mentioned it a lot. But a lot of people might say that it's not like a very story-heavy game, but for me, I really felt like the notes of this, there was this world that felt quite alive at a certain point in time. And I felt like the sadness in that world, but also the beauty of it. And then for like the series like Berserk, it's quite dark, right? And it's quite a heavy story, but it's also ultimately a hopeful story.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that's a big thing for us, is like we want to convey this idea of hope. Like despite a world that's been devastated, there's the overcoming of it. And also worlds that have been devastated that become overtaken back by nature are like very lively worlds, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so I think, the main things here is balancing those themes of like beauty and dread with the enemies, and also like the landscape that you're interacting with.
So what would you say would be the feature that you think set this game apart from the others? Like the part that you feel most excited about?
I definitely think it's just how robust the water system is. Like you can just imagine that there's a lot to do when the waves get choppy and the water level is a certain level, right?
Yeah.
And also like it has a lot of replayability in the sense that I can explore the world for a while here, and then the world completely changes when I'm like raising the level, and like now
and even during daytime and nighttime.
And like you can imagine that during the daytime it feels more safe, but then in the evenings like more enemies will come out. Another thing I forgot to mention is if we look on these buildings, we'll see like these kind of black spots. And it's that same dark substance that kind of is enshrouding the city. Like we can even see it on the horizon.
The one that is stick on the wall.
And so again, because this is just a pre-production demo for Taipei, there wasn't time to go in depth into the story. But you are meant to clean this. You are meant to leave the world better, in a better state.
Okay.
So
it even carry a meaning of environmental friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, the environmental friendliness of it, and also with like with the idea of the dolphins and the whales. There was this when we were talking with WDC, we were talking about like, You know, you can imagine like as a fantasy, you want to like ride on the back of a whale
Yeah.
and like
Yeah,
grab
yeah,
its
that's
fins and
right.
pilot
Yeah.
it. But then we were like informed that like those kinds of narratives actually are harmful to portray
Yes,
in games because
that's right.
although it's fun and it's kind of like a fantasy, it's not great to like depict. And so we really want to show like how can it be fun but also like, you know, respectful, right?
Yeah. That's very also important.
But yeah, so we just wanted to show like the few things that are currently like have been developed, like how you can interact with the world,
Yeah.
all these little puzzles that are scattered around, as well as like cleaning up the environment. And there's a lot of enemies for you to interact with.
Yeah.
Some are faster paced, some are slower.
But
some-
there has already been like so many things to see and
Yeah.
explore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when can we expect this to come out?
So right now we are in pre-production and we are looking at going into production like before the first half of the year will finish. So and within the first half, we plan to go into full production.
Okay.
Currently, the developers, like we did have an artist, a concept artist, as well as sound designer and whatnot on the team, but currently it is just my brother and myself. So when we enter production, we will go full team, and then we're looking at about a year and a half of development.
A year and a half. So I
Yeah.
would say maybe early 2025.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Looking forward to it. So for the people who want to follow more about this game and more interested about this game, where can they find you?
So you can go to our Steam page. You can give us a wish list there, and we will be updating. Also, we have a website at 2090creative.com, and a lot of where we share our progress is on Twitter.
Okay.
My brother Dennis, who's a developer, likes to share updates there, so you
Okay.
can follow him on Twitter. It's 416_DC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you follow them on their social media, website, Twitter, and wishlist this game, the Dead Flamingo? We
Thank you.
look forward to seeing it in the near future. And thank you so much for sharing this game with me.
Thank you.
for spending
Thank you for
time.
having us.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, so for the people who are watching, this will be the end for this session, but more to come in our next session. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.